The loudspeakers in the city continuously emitted meaningless buzzing sounds. The sound of an abnormal wind rose in the bustling city with rows of tall buildings. The loudspeakers emitted warning sounds. The dungeon gate at Seoul Arts University has opened. We request all residents in the area to evacuate immediately. The sound of a howling wind rose. Seoul University was already sealed off. Inside was filled with smoke and dust, and the silhouettes of fire skeletons could still be seen. Outside stood a group of people fully equipped with weapons, looking like they were from the military. One of them was smoking a cigarette and said unwillingly, "Damn it, so many people have died, and I can only stand by and watch. When will the hunters from the association arrive?" The person holding the tablet beside him replied with a serious expression. It seemed that sending a B-rank hunter would take some time. The smoking man glanced at him and asked back, "B-level? Didn't they say this was a D-level gate?" The person beside him hurriedly replied, "Actually, the association is considering the hunters being infected." He glanced at the hunters on the tablet. He heard the smoking man say, "Could it be?" The smoking man's voice turned surprised. "That C-level hunter has been infected." The person holding the tablet didn't reply. His hand stopped at the profile of a hunter named Kim Jong-soo, a D-level tank. At this moment, inside Seoul University of the Arts, Sung Suho was facing a sea-level fire skeleton. He was beaten to the ground. His clothes were in tatters. He reluctantly put one hand on the floor to keep his balance. Sung Suho broke out in cold sweat. He found it hard to believe. What the hell? Did it jump down from a lower floor? Looking at the fire skeleton in front of him, a red nameplate appeared on its head. The mist had awakened to rank C. Sung Suho was shocked. A rank C fire skeleton. It even had a weapon. It must be different from the previous mists. Sung Suho regained his composure. He held his hands in front of him and looked at it warily, but he had just leveled up. He didn't know if he had a chance. The fire skeleton's huge sword rushed over. Sung Suho gritted his teeth. He could only lean to the side to dodge. With just one sword sweep, it almost caused the room to collapse. Sung Suho leaned against the wall. He was terrified and couldn't believe it. Looking at the fire skeleton with absolute power in front of him, it was raising its arm to prepare to strike another sword. Sung Suho thought to himself, "Crazy." The fire skeleton awakened to rank C, not giving Sung Suho a chance to think much. It raised its sword and gritted its teeth to slash down. Sung Suho could only pick up the fire extinguisher on the ground to block the attack. The fire extinguisher was just cut in half by it. Sung Suho took this opportunity to jump aside. The compressed air in the fire extinguisher quickly escaped. In no time, the air filled the room. It slowly flew out the door. Immediately after, a strong force came from inside the room. Sung Suho rushed out the door like a gust of wind. He tried his best to run forward, but he couldn't help but think that he couldn't face this kind of monster. No wonder the awakened people were divided into ranks. He was worried and wondered when the hunters would arrive, if he could hold out until the other hunters arrived. Sung Suho didn't dare to think too much. He ran at full speed, wanting to escape from the fire skeleton, but after running for a while, it appeared outside the door with a sword in its hand. Its eyes were burning with blue fire, and its mouth was breathing out fire, looking very terrifying. Suddenly, it didn't chase after Sung Suho but turned its head away. Sung Suho saw that it didn't make any movements, and he stopped in surprise. Humph, he wondered in his heart. Why? At this moment, the awakened fire skeleton was raising its head to look at the rooftop, where 3 girls were standing. The 3 girls were standing on the rooftop, trembling in fear. One of them tried to comfort everyone. "Just wait until the hunters come." The girl beside her held the other girl's hand tightly. They were almost there, weren't they? The other girl looked down the stairs, her eyes wide open as if she had discovered something terrible. The awakened fire skeleton, rank C, jumped from the window downstairs to the rooftop with its sword in hand. It swung its sword straight at the 3 girls. The loud noise from there caught Sung Suho's attention. He was stunned, a little in disbelief. The awakened fire skeleton, rank C, was now standing on the rooftop. A corner of the place had already been destroyed by it. The whistling sound of the wind was a bit mournful. Sung Suho was so angry that he gritted his teeth, looking at it with hatred. Sung Suho couldn't help but curse in his heart. Damn it, he didn't hesitate to jump after it onto the rooftop. There was no time to wait for the hunter. Sung Suho angrily kicked it right above its head. The surrounding smoke and dust had yet to clear. Although he knew he was no match for it, he had already made up his mind that he had to stop it. A kick that used all his strength and the force that erupted from his anger, yet it didn't even cause a single scratch to the firebone. It turned around and swung its sword to attack Sung Suho. He quickly jumped up, high, retreating to avoid this attack. Seeing the ground under his feet cracking into pieces because of its slash, his expression became serious. If he was hit just once, he would lose his life. He glanced at the girl's corpse lying in a pool of blood beside him, but his heart was filled with anger and determination. He clenched his fists, stubbornly facing the incoming fire skeleton, unable to let it escape. Countless punches were thrown at Sung Suho, punching straight into the fire skeleton's body. The fire skeleton was not the least bit shaken. It continuously swung its sword to attack Sung Suho. Sung Suho could only lean to the side to dodge. He clenched his fists. His eyes lit up, and immediately after that, another punch was thrown. The anger gave him more strength. He switched hands to swing his fists to attack it. Punches were thrown one after another. He seemed to be tireless. The eye sockets of the sea-level awakened fire skeleton were pitch black. Its expression was a bit ferocious. Its eyes flashed with flickering blue flames. Sung Suho used both hands to hold the fire skeleton's head tightly. He jumped up and kneed it in the face. At the same time, the fire skeleton also raised its arm. The sword in its hand aimed at Sung Suho and slashed. Sung Suho didn't have time to dodge. He was hit, and the hot red blood in his body just kept flowing out. Sung Suho was hit and flew back. Blood was on the corner of his lips. His eyes widened in pain, and he groaned. That blow directly sent Sung Suho flying far away, hitting the wall behind him. Sung Suho's internal organs felt like they were crushed. He spat out a mouthful of blood. The fire skeleton approached Sung Suho, who was sitting at the foot of the wall. Blood flowed down from his head. Sung Suho's vision became blurry. He gradually closed his eyes. The system displayed his HP status as 140. Sung Suho knelt on one knee on the floor, one hand holding his chest, the other supporting his knee, his head bowed, his whole body trembling as he muttered, "Luckily, the system probably doesn't want me to collapse yet." Sung Suho's vision became blurry and unclear. The fire skeleton in front of him seemed to be in a state of excitement. It was getting closer and closer to him. Sung Suho seemed to see a streak of light gradually spreading like a crack. He stood up, his whole body trembling as he tried to hold on, blood dripping from the corner of his mouth. Sung Suho saw the streak of light in front of him getting clearer and clearer, accompanied by increasingly clear cracks and cracking sounds. Before he could figure out what it was, the sea-level awakened fire skeleton in front of him used all its speed to attack him. The system jumped out of the window. Status 99. At the same time, Sung Suho's hazy eyes were also gradually closing. Damn it. Sung Suho cursed in his heart. The sword in the fire skeleton's hand was already close to him. At the same time, the crack that he saw when he was dizzy became brighter and brighter. The space before his eyes suddenly became like a glass. It flashed with a dazzling light and then shattered into pieces. A black figure rushed out from the tear. It swooped down from above and let out a strange cry, not like a human, but more like a monster in him. At the same time, the fire skeleton's sword was also preparing to slash at Sung Suho, who had collapsed on the ground. From the sky, a terrifying force suddenly struck down, easily cutting off the hand that was holding the fire skeleton's sword before it could touch Sung Suho. That force was so strong that it destroyed the floor, and rocks and dirt flew up in all directions, coincidentally blocking the fire skeleton's progress. Sung Suho still had a trace of consciousness. He tried to open his eyes to see the situation around him, but fatigue and drowsiness still attacked him. He helplessly closed his eyes. The thing that just appeared from the sky stared at Sung Suho, who was lying on the ground. A bitch ant! It raised its hand, its sharp or completely non-human hand, surrounded by a layer of blue light. That layer of blue light covered Sung Suho's entire body and gradually healed his wounds. It's all because I was late. It turned to look at the rank C awakened fire skeleton. You must be lowly insects that dare to harm him. His eyes lit up. It looked like a monster with enormous power. As soon as he finished speaking, the rank C awakened. Fire skeleton's body was easily pierced by it. The body in the middle exploded, leaving only its arms and 2 legs. In another place, another fire skeleton. Its eyes lit up with blue flames. It rushed towards the person holding the mop to get back on its own, letting out a beast-like cry. The person holding the mop was trembling in fear, tears streaming down his face uncontrollably. He stuttered and shouted, "Is anyone there?" He was so frightened that he threw away the mop, clutching his head and desperately calling for help. At the same time, the fire skeleton in front of him was also blown up into a pool of blood, leaving only 2 legs. Similar situations were happening in other places as well. With just a wave of its hand, the monster that appeared from the sky had already dealt with the fire skeletons. It raised its hand, turning the fire skeletons into pools of blood wherever it went. It seemed to be tireless, going from one floor to another in Seoul University of the Arts, easily dealing with the fire skeletons without any effort. In the face of absolute power, the fire skeletons could only accept being shredded, having their heads taken off one by one. The Seoul Arts University building went through a fierce battle. Thick smoke and dust rose. A hurricane blew through. The glass windows of the building shattered into pieces. Something seemed to sweep across the sky. The shockwave shook the entire sky, startling the people surrounding the university. With the Seoul Arts University building as the center, the wave of power swept through and spread throughout the city. The soldiers stared at this scene with wide eyes, their minds filled with only question marks. The monster appeared from the sky and landed on the ground. It knelt on one knee before the unconscious Sung Suho, lying on the ground, looking extremely respectful. In the ruin scene, its voice echoed with an indescribable reverence. "Long time no see, Prince." If you find this video interesting, don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss the next chapters.